Autumn has officially begun, meaning that it's time for us to set up another TBR for horror bingo. Thanks Sarah from Wicked Reading for creating a year-long challenge starting on October 1st, going all the way until September 30th, 2026. I am so excited to participate, and I'm gonna give it my all this time. Last time I decided to kind of play it fast and loose, it didn't set up a TBR, and now I kind of regret it because I really want that blackout. So this time around, I'm creating a video, holding myself accountable, and I'm gonna do it with hard mode. I don't know why I've decided to really challenge myself this year, but I think it's partially because I did hard mode for our fantasy this year and I'm killing it. So I figured, hey, why not jump into the deep end, especially because Sarah's prompts are so fun, especially the hard mode ones, and so I'm just gonna give it my all. With that said, I am putting these books on my card for now in good faith, because I'm assuming that they are hard mode. Some of these you're not gonna know until you actually start the book, unless you at home happen to recognize a title and you know for a fact it doesn't count for hard mode. Let me know in the comments. It'll help me out in the long run. It'll help other people who find this channel, this video in the long run, but also don't feel that it's your responsibility. If you know the title doesn't count, just let me know, and then you can carry on and enjoy the video. And also feel free to provide your own suggestions, especially if you know a book counts for a certain tile and you think it's underrated, not enough people are reading it. Let me know, because if it intrigues me enough, I'll do some swaps. Why not? With that said though, I'm pretty proud of the board that I have set up, so let's get started. I'll go row by row, starting with the upper left-hand corner. Oh, but also, if you're interested in joining the challenge yourself, I will have Sarah linked below as well as her announcement video. Join us, it's gonna be a great time, and show Sarah some love because I'm so impressed. She's put so much work into it and it's gonna be a really great year of horror reading. Okay, as I said, we're gonna go row by row, starting with published in 2025. I've got the perfect book for this. The only thing is that hard mode requires you to read the book by the end of the year. So you don't have most of the challenge. You only have until December 31st until hard mode is just not an option anymore. That's quite daunting, but it's also super motivational. For me, I'm going to be reading Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. This was published earlier this year in 2025. I got it as an ARC last year in 2024 and just still haven't had the time to read it. And I say that, it's more my fault. I should have read this long ago, especially because people have loved My Darling Dreadful Thing. So this second publication from the Dutch author, why am I waiting on it? I don't know. It does intrigue me though. I don't typically read gothic horror, but I do like historical settings. And this is the Netherlands in the late 1800s, so Victorian era. Sisters, vampires. I feel like it actually will be up my alley. I just need to actually start it. Next is mixed media, and I think this is going to be hard for people in general, but especially when it comes to hard mode, because the requirement is it has to include 3 different forms of media. So for instance, journal entries, newspaper clippings, maybe a manuscript or a script from like a radio announcement, something like that. 3 different forms of media, and I think this will work, especially because this book is so heavy that it has so many different forms of mixed media within its pages, and I've been meaning to read it forever. I'm pretty sure it was on my October TBR last year, just never got to it, and that is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. This is described to me as a horror mystery that involves cultish film type of, I don't know what it is, I have no idea, but it seems really fun. And basically the daughter of this well-known, well-loved underground kind of dark film director, she dies under mysterious circumstances, and now her death is being investigated. But as the investigator gets deeper and deeper into this very kind of like cult fandom, things get darker and more sinister. I think it's gonna be a wild ride, especially when you get into the various forms of multimedia. I don't know, I'm assuming it's gonna count for hard mode, and I'm really, really pumped about it. Indie self-published, and that one has a hard mode of a new to you author. For me, I actually cheated a little bit, mainly because this author got on my radar thanks to our fantasy, and I initially had it chosen for the self-published square that's on that bingo card. This is called A Lonely Broadcast. It's book 1, so it is a series, and it's by Kel Byron. It looks spooky and very interesting. I think it's going to be a haunting type of presence where it probably won't be on page gore horror, but it's going to be more atmospheric just because of the radio aspect of it all. And I am going to read the synopsis for you. If you find yourself driving down a winding mountain road near an endless stretch of pines, try tuning in to the 104.6, the radio station that shouldn't exist. The village of Pine Haven has a secret of monstrous proportions. Evelyn McKinnon, a radio host falling on hard times, finds herself utterly unprepared when she learns that the radio station isn't just for entertainment, it's a watchtower. This just kind of gives me Welcome to Night Vale vibes, which I actually am wearing that shirt right now, and it's one of my favorite books. I've reread it since reading it the first time, loved it, went to a live performance of the podcast that the book is based off of, so I'm a bit of a Welcome to Night Vale fan, just to say the least, and this sounds really fun. So that's gonna go for that square, and I'm really looking forward to it. Next to that square is paranormal, and for hard mode, it has to include ghost hunters or paranormal investigators within the plot as main characters. And this book I've had on my radar for quite some time, but I also snagged it from the announcement video, I'm pretty sure, because Sarah was listing off random recommendations as she was going. She does plan on doing, I think, a bigger recommendation video later on, but of course in the moment she was just rattling things off. This book I really want to read because I love haunted houses. Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker. This is a novella. It's only like 160-ish pages, and I really love a haunted house story, and I really like horror novellas recently. I will say that the average rating does make me a little bit nervous. It's currently at a 3.34 on Goodreads, but I've also liked books in the past that have had pretty low ratings, specifically in the horror genre. I think that's a genre that expects very high highs, very low lows, and just mixed reviews with a lot of the titles within that genre. So I'm not that worried, but it's something to note. And probably one of my favorite squares on the entire bingo card, just because it honestly speaks to one of my favorite parts of the book community, and that is stolen from another TBR. For hard mode, it has to be a specific TBR relating to horror bingo itself. And I love this so much, especially because I had to grab a title from another booktuber or on Instagram as well. She has playlists, so if you want to check out Sarah's various lists on YouTube and on Instagram, feel free. If you're thinking, how the heck am I going to fulfill this prompt? For myself, I decided to add a challenge in finding a booktuber that I've actually never heard of before, and I found that in Rochelle. And thanks to Rochelle over at Good Morning Dreamer, I'm adding The Love Club by Leo Min onto my bingo card. I am so excited for this title because it's described as like sci-fi mystery with some fantasy elements. Rochelle herself said that it's inspired or kind of a spin-off, a new take on Jumanji, which fascinates me. It's a new release, which I wasn't expecting. It just came out in August, so I'm assuming that I'll continue to see hype as it grows. It is YA, which can be hit or miss for me, but I've also had some really positive experiences with YA, so I mean, I think this is part of the game, getting outside of your comfort zone. And thank you so much to Rochelle again. I will have her linked below. I'll have her own video for her horror bingo TBR if you want to see what other books she's added, because there are going to be quite a few that you could snag from her TBR alone. Moving down to row 2, we start off with vampires. For hard mode, it has to be set in a modern setting. That was daunting at the time. I came up with a title, but now that I think about it, I have a couple others I could use, so I'm just going to give them all to you so you have more to use as well, but I'm not sure which one I'm actually going to go with. The one that I decided when I first made this board is actually by Vivian Shaw, and it's called Strange Practice. It's the first book in the Dr. Greta Helsing series, and from what I can tell, based on reviews, it is set in modern times. However, I also realized I could probably reread a favorite, and that is In Every Generation by Kendare Blake. This is a Buffy 2.0 following the next generation after Buffy and her friends, and it's just such a good romp. It's really, really fun. And then I realized I have a NetGalley arc that I believe is also set in modern times, and because it also does have some type of connection to Buffy, that franchise, it should be modern as well, and that is Slayers of Old. This is by Jim C. Hines. It looks fabulous. It looks so fun, and I'm imagining that's a modern retake on like vampires, because how can you have anything relating to Buffy without vampires? So yeah, I've realized I'm actually flush with options. I just don't know which one I'm going to count for it. Technically, Slayers of Old is on my TBR for October, so why wouldn't I count it? That's probably the one I should go with, but Strange Practice has been on my TBR for so long as well. It's a conundrum. Let me know what you think if you have an opinion. Ooh, water setting. That shouldn't be too hard, but when you add the modifier of hard mode, saying that most of the story has to take place in the water, that's when things get tricky. Obviously, Into the Drowning Deep is a great option. I've already read that. Rolling in the Deep is also an option for those who are intimidated by how thick Into the Drowning Deep is, the prequel. You can read them in any order. A lot of people who like action specifically and don't really want to get caught up in the scientific jargon, they tend to like Rolling in the Deep better. It's just more fast-paced compared to the slow burn that is Into the Drowning Deep. Just a heads up there. For me, the obvious choice is From Below by Darcy Coates. I have read one book by Darcy Coates and I did really enjoy it. I can't remember the title now for some reason. It was thanks to Brie from Four Paws in a Book. She recommended it to me and I did have a really good time with it. Now that was a haunted house setting and like I said, I really love those, but I also really enjoy the idea of space horror and water horror in general. So I'm thinking From Below should work perfectly. Horror movie elements. I've realized yet again, I have a book on my physical TBR that I could totally count for this. So it's going to be depending on which one I'm in the mood for. But my initial choice for this was Final Girls by Riley Sager. I read one other book by Riley Sager, Home Before Dark, gave it 2 stars. So this is going to be a second chance with this author, but it is one of the well-loved ones by him. So I feel like it should be a good opportunity for me to give him a second shot. Another book that I just realized is Pretty as a Picture by Elizabeth Little. This is one that I've owned for quite some time, have never read it. And both of them involve the film industry, either by having characters participate in filming or the aftermath of a really like horrific event like Final Girls. For hard mode for this one, it is just to watch a horror movie. I haven't decided the horror movie, but I will welcome suggestions. And second to last in this row is to spell ghost or scare in the title and or author. For hard mode, it has to be a book by a BIPOC author, and I have another obvious choice because I've never read it and I am behind on the times. That is Jackal by Aaron Adams. If you scramble up the title and the author together, you definitely can spell scare. And this one is described as a horror mystery, sometimes a thriller. I don't really know what I'm getting into. I want to go in blind, and that's what I love about this prompt. It lets you not have to look too deep into the storyline, and I think it's going to be a wild ride. This was a possible title for July Noir that I just never got to, so I'm making up for lost time on this one too. The lighting has changed because a storm is brewing outside. It feels very perfect for horror bingo, doesn't it? The final prompt for the second row is liminal spaces, and that also took me for a turn because that can be really hard to identify in a book as well without having read it. And the hard mode is the book has an even number of pages. When I was thinking about this prompt, I realized that episode 13 by Craig DeLuise should count. I'm pretty sure that it counts. Other reviewers have mentioned this idea of playing around with liminal space being called liminal horror. And I also know that it counts for the paranormal prompt with hard mode because the main characters are paranormal investigators as well. So keep that in mind. But it looks really fun, and the ebook, which is probably what I would have to read it from because I don't have access to it as paperback or hardback, has even number of pages. So I'm counting it as a win. Ooh, starting off row 3 with another favorite, and that is library book. I'm so pleased that Sarah included this square in her bingo card because we need to support our libraries in every form we can. I work for a library, so I'm especially passionate about this, but I love it with all my heart. And the hard mode is simply bringing the book back in a timely fashion. I know that there's an alternative. If you don't have access to a library, you can simply borrow a book from a friend. So there are options there. For me, I think that the option was pretty easy, especially because whenever I'm reshelving, I'm staring at this book, it's staring back, asking me, why haven't you read me yet? And that is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Now, I've had a bumpy history with this author. I read Paladin's Grace and I gave it a 3.5. It was fine. Romantasy usually isn't my thing, so I'm not surprised. And then I tried the fairy tale reimagining with A Sorceress Comes to Call, and that one really fell flat. I had to DNF it. So I'm a bit worried. T. Kingfisher just might not be the author for me, which breaks my heart because she's so well loved, but I think I need to give her horror a try. With that said, A House with Good Bones is also at my library, and I don't have a preference. So let me know in the comments if you do. If you think that there's one that is better to start with versus the other, I will take your advice very happily. The next one forced me to do some work, and I appreciate it. It is called Picked by Choice, and the hard mode is that I had to have 10 plus options on the list. I think more than 10, so at least 11 different titles that it could be a risk with, and I decided to narrow it down to classics, so classic horror, classic gothic narratives. My list, going very quickly, included Out, Fledgling, We Have Always Lived in the Castle, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Jane Eyre, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, My Cousin Rachel, The Woman in White, The Wheel Spins, Some Must Watch, and The Kraken Wakes. These are all books that I've been meaning to read, just haven't gotten a chance to it. I did spin the wheel. Hopefully I recorded it. And the option that I ended up landing on was Jane Eyre, which is perfect because I own that book. It's been sitting on my shelf for years, and I have been meaning to delve deeper into the Bronte sisters in general because I ended up reading Wuthering Heights, was pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it, and so now I want to try the other sisters because I'm sure that I will appreciate the gothic, dark, atmospheric tone in their books as well. So yeah, Jane Eyre. You're next. The next one is really tough. It's a book that you've been putting off. And on top of that, for hard mode, it has to be the first book I read, meaning that it's probably the book I'm going to start with on October 1st because a handful of books I've already mentioned are on my October TBR or books I want to read before the end of the year. The book that's published in 2025, I have to read that before the end of the year. So there's a couple timeline ones, which is very interesting. For this, there was an obvious book, and that was When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. Yet again, an author I'm kind of giving a second chance to. I read Mary. I just realized I'm not really a fan of Carrie or Carrie reimaginings, so it probably wasn't the right choice for me to start with. I also had some issues with choices by the author. He's a really good author, though. He can write, and that's why I want to give him another shot. And When the Wolf Comes Home, I had a NetGalley arc, didn't get to it in time, probably because Mary remained a bit, bitter in my mouth. And so there's no better time like the present. So hopefully this one ends up being a win for me. LGBTQ plus representation for hard mode. The main character has to be a part of this group, and there has to be LGBTQ plus themes. I think I've got a perfect author for this. That is Sarah Gailey. And the book I'm going to try out is sci-fi horror. It's called Spread Me. From what I can tell, the entire cast or most of the cast is LGBTQ plus, which is great. And so I imagine that there are significant themes as well woven throughout. I'm looking forward to this. I really like sci-fi horror, and I don't know what has stopped me from trying this book sooner, but this is a good excuse. Another great square to round off row number 3, and that is buddy read. For hard mode, it just has to involve a discussion of some sorts, and I've got 2 buddies that I know for a fact will be game for a discussion. Those buddies are Danny Dabbles and Kirsten from The Reading Nymph. All 3 of us have enjoyed Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris. We found out that it is a part of a series. The second book, Wayward Souls, is coming out in May 2026, and we've decided to buddy read it together. This is a buddy read planned long in advance. I recognize that, but I am so excited for it. Wayward Souls is the second book to the Harker and Moriarty series. It is horror mixed with mystery, mixed with fantasy, all kind of wrapped in one in various degrees, and it's just a really fun time. I can't recommend the series enough. Check out Strange Beasts if you haven't read it already. And now it is raining like crazy outside. I don't know if you can hear it, but I've turned on some lights. Truly, we are in a horrific storm right now. I mean, it is perfect for this horror bingo video, but what madness. The next row starts off with a recommended book. Love that. However, the hard mode is a book that's outside of your comfort zone. I ended up getting a recommendation from a friend at my library. She's our resident horror reader. It's a book I've been sleeping on for quite some time, but she loved it when she read it initially, and that is Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. Now, the reason why it's outside of my comfort zone is that I'm pretty sure it's a motherhood story. It's a domestic horror, and those don't usually work for me. I'm not someone who gravitates towards parent stories or parents as main characters when that experience is significant to the storyline, just because it's something I can't relate to and something I'm not interested in. But this does look really good. A darkly funny domestic horror novel about a woman who must take drastic measures to save her husband and herself from the vengeful ghost of her mother-in-law. So it may be motherhood adjacent in that the mother of the story is the mother-in-law. I'm not sure if the main character is a mother as well, but I really do think I should give this book a try, so I'm adding it to my bingo card. A novella, and the hard mode is an author you have read from before. I mean, this is not hard at all. This is probably the easiest prompt I've been given, because not only do I love novellas, but the fact that I can retreat to an author that I know I've enjoyed before, say no more. For me, this is going to be Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. It is a little bit of a risk, because the book I've loved by this author is Bloom, also camp horror, really well done, loved it. I've recommended it multiple times to other people. They've all loved it as well. With that said, I tried one of her thrillers, It Will Only Hurt for a Moment. That one got 2 stars from me. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag, but because we're leaning horror, because we're leaning novella, I am in my comfort zone with this author, and I'm imagining it's gonna be, what's a phrase? A ball out of the park, a home run. There we go. I'm imagining it's gonna be a home run. Another one of my favorite areas of horror is eco horror. So this next prompt, again, right up my alley, with it requiring a book involving eco, nature-y, or plant horror of some sort. And the hard mode is that there does need to be nature elements on the cover. For this one, I am going out of the box in that I've not seen anyone talk about this book, but the cover alone looks really fun, and the comparisons fascinate me. So this is called Doomflower by Jendia Gaiman, and it's described as Mean Girls meets Day of the Triffids. I beg your pardon? That sounds amazing. The meanest teen queen in high school might be the world's only chance against killer plans running amok. I think it's going to be really fun. It's described as sci-fi horror. It is YA, but I think that in the grand scheme of the setting of the plots, I'm imagining the writing style is going to really work for me, and it's going to be very fun while also being just chaos and maybe some gory moments. Sounds like a fun time. A verb in the title, and for hard mode, it has to be a backlist book. This is up to interpretation for me. It can't have been published within the year. That's kind of the timeline I'm going with. And the title I've chosen for it is Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. I know that Rainy Blue Reads, loved this book when it was recommended to her for Battle of the Booktuber, and I'm intrigued. She and I have seen eye to eye in horror before, so I'm wondering if this is going to be a title that we both can agree upon, and it does look like a really wild ride. Oof, this one is a tough one, and I'm fortunately or unfortunately very easily able to fulfill it. That is a book that you're giving a second chance to. Now, it could be a book that you soft DNF'd, an author that you're giving a second chance to. There are a few ways to interpret this prompt. For hard mode, it has to be a book with odd number of pages, and I've checked my library copy. It does have an odd number of pages, so it's perfect for this prompt, and that is Overgrowth by Mira Grant. I already mentioned her recently, Into the Drowning Deep, Rolling in the Deep. I obviously really like this author, at least some of the backlist books I've read from her. Her newest title, though, I tried it for my Our Fantasy bingo board. I did a vlog not long ago, and I had to DNF it during that vlog because I just wasn't really working for me. I think that my expectations on the tone and where the narrative was going just didn't align with what was on the page, and now that I know what I'm in for, I do think I have a better chance of reading, enjoying, and finishing the book, so I am putting it on the bingo card. Only 5 squares left. Where has the time gone? We are starting off row number 5 with animal on the cover. Now, the only caveat for this is it has to be a real animal, so not a mythical creature, not a dragon or a unicorn, and on top of that, if you're doing hard mode, the book has to be longer than the one you read before it. So there is some organizing, being strategic in what you read before this title if you want it to count for hard mode. And for some reason, I've chosen a book that's not very long. So I definitely am going to have to make sure I read one of the novellas ahead of it. But I have so many novellas on this bingo card, not intentionally, that I don't really see it being that hard of a challenge. So for this, for an animal on the cover, I have chosen The Hounding by Zenobi Purvis, a new to me author, a book that's just been released this year, and it has been getting a lot of hype. I'm intrigued, but also see it as a book out of my comfort zone. The Crucible meets the Virgin Suicides in this haunting debut about 5 sisters in a small village in 18th century England whose neighbors are convinced they're turning into dogs. Very interesting. You know, when I read that, I realize I'm actually more excited to read it than I thought, so maybe it's not as out of my comfort zone as I initially thought. This next one, you're gonna have to let me know if it's cheating a little bit, because the prompt is one word. That was easy, check. but the hard mode is that it can't be a book that's all black. The cover can't be all black. It has to have some color in it, and it's dark, but technically it's a various number of browns. The title I'm going with is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, another vampire book, interestingly enough. So at least the third one that I've added onto my bingo card. I'm not obsessed with vampires. I don't usually gravitate towards those stories. I don't know what's going on. I'm not mad at it though. What's interesting about this one is that it is inspired. It's a reimagining of Carmilla, which I read not this year, but last year, thanks to Lauren over at Happy Haunts Library. And so I'm interested, now that I know the origin story, the like prototype of the vampire that even dates before Dracula, I think I'll have an interesting appreciation for Hungerstone once I read it. Debut book, with the caveat for hard mode that actually has to be the only book or work by this author. And the one I went with is The Doll Makers by Lynn Buchanan. This was recommended to me numerous times by Danny Dabbles. She champions this title quite a bit, actually. It is a fantasy horror novel, and it does really intrigue me. At the moment, it is a standalone, and I believe that the author has said that she intends to include other books within that same world, all of them being standalones in the same universe. And on Goodreads, it says, in this dark and enchanting standalone fantasy from debut author Lynn Buchanan. So, I mean, she's a debut author. I think it counts. The one thing that I'm worried about is that on Goodreads, it does list her as an author of 3 other works, but they're all anthologies or have numbers of authors, and she might be an editor of some sort. This is the only true novel-length work that she's the author of, so I do think that it should count for hard mode. The next bingo square is works with another goal, and for hard mode it has to overlap with another event on YouTube. I also have to go to the announcement video on Sarah's channel and let her know in the comments which event I'm going to be pairing this event with. And for me, the book is going to be But Not Too Bold by Hache Pueo, and the other event I'm pairing it with is Our Fantasy Bingo. So 2 bingo cards. I mean, it seems perfect, especially because it'll be counting for 2 different squares, both for hard mode. Is this the ultimate book? I think it is. It's described as a sapphic monster romance that mixes in fantasy elements as well. So it's a novella too, meaning that it's doing a lot in a short amount of time. That has worked for me in the past. We'll see if But Not Too Bold pulls it off. And finally, the last prompt on this bingo card is social commentary. For hard mode, it has to be by a marginalized author, and so I've decided to go with Blood in the Water by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is her newest work. It's a middle grade horror mystery. The reason why it's even on my radar is thanks to Ashley over at Realm of Kidlit Comics. She read it during her vlog for Herked, the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, and I was intrigued. I don't usually gravitate towards Tiffany D. Jackson just because she's known for her YA work, but with her writing middle grade, I think it's going to be a really good time. And that is my planned bingo card. I think I have a really good mixture of a variety of types of horror, going from middle grade YA to adult to various subgenres, authors I've read from before, authors I haven't, authors I've loved, authors I'm giving a second chance, and I think that that's all in the spirit of this horror bingo challenge. So thank you so much to Sarah, again, Wicked Reading, for creating it. If you have any thoughts, reactions to my horror bingo choices, any of the titles that you've loved or hated, I would love to hear it in the comments. And if you're not feeling chatty and you want to prove to me that you have reached the end of the video, I love to see these comments, by the way, because it really does warm my heart. How about in honor of autumn, the start of the season of horror, give me any type of autumnal emojis in the comments. And check out Horror Bingo if you're interested in it, and join me for TBR Harvest because I think that they're going to overlap really nicely this October. Thanks everyone, and I do hope to see you in the next one. Bye!